Hello, you're listening to Work From Home, a Lower Street podcast where we help you stay connected, productive and sane whilst working remotely. Today, we're talking to Joe O'Halloran. He's a journalist specialising in internet and network infrastructure. We asked him, is our Wi-Fi slower now that everyone's working from home? And what can we do to make it faster?
The first question that we're really interested about is that obviously now that we're all working from home, or at least the large proportion of us are working from home, certainly the office-based among us, the demand that's putting on the network, the broadband network, I don't even know the right terminology to use, to be honest, is being put under a huge amount of stress, right? And so lots of people, depending on where you live, are being affected in lots of different ways. So how is this affecting demand from a network perspective and from a kind of consumer perspective?
There was a consumer and there was a work professional user up until, say, March. I'd say now the home network is now just the network. That's the working network. It's the de facto network for everything. All the data, all the research, all the anecdotal evidence that we've gathered tells us that there really is just the network. It's a network that's built off. Some people use it for like Zoom and conferencing. Some people use it for Fortnite and games, as we're all had to hunker down. And the good news has been, or the good news according to the operators, is that they've coped with the strain. And I think people were just worried about the lights would go out. Well, the lights haven't gone out.
Have the networks had to kind of jack stuff up in order to kind of cope with this, or is it just the system is here and so far it's kind of holding it?
I was speaking to, I've spoken to BT and spoken to Vodafone, and it's almost provisioned for 4 times the load they've experienced now. On the BT network, there's the highest hit or the biggest strain it's ever had to cope with was when a new version of Fortnite came out.
Right.
Listen, blame the gamers. This bit we can't name and shame. But when there's a new game, their network took a hit. I think it was like 17.5 terabits a second of data.
Wow.
Now, to put that into context, the normal peak of an evening is around 4 or 5 terabits. That's what BT or someone like them will be managing. But be the same for Virgin. So massive download of the new game. Everyone hits it. It's real time. It's consuming everything. So they learned this. They put more infrastructure in. Now, after about a month, what they found was a really interesting stat. Peak usage during the day is shot up. Now, during the day, it was like barely 1 terabit per second of data. It's now about 4, 5, sometimes 6. That's literally all why people watching Joe Wicks and the online video.
Gotcha. Yep.
If put that into context, it's 5 times the video load between like 9 to 6. The network copes with it. The other good news is we all return to form after 6 o'clock.
Right.
This peak just goes down to basic nothing, then picks up again when people are on the network for online TV and gaming. The good news is, and this is across the board, networks have coped.
Access to the internet is completely vital, basically, to be a functional member of society these days, right? And so it really is you're hamstrung if you don't have a quality and consistent internet connection as a young person, particularly.
Hugely. My classic example of this is, I met this, I'll say somewhat facetiously, an ice cream guy from Cornwall. What I mean by that, he had an ice cream company based in Cornwall, a local-based sustainable business down in the far reaches of the county where opportunity and access to fibre broadband was lacking. And he put it into perspective. His business, if he could get hold of a fibre connection like I could, there was a whole suite of business solutions that he could make use of that he couldn't because he didn't have reliable broadband now. By having access to the suite of solutions, he could do work which would translate into profit, which he could put back into his business and grow. Okay, this is before the pandemic.
Sure.
But that was a really easy calculation for him. Here's what fibre broadband would do for the business. It was a no-brainer investment. The problem was being able to get it in the first place.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So what can we do as people that are working from home and in many cases new to working from home? Is there anything we can do about our connectivity? I mean, I assume we're at the whim of BT or Virgin or whoever, but is there anything that you can recommend to help? You know, if our connection is slow, is there anything that can be done to sort of make sure we can attend that meeting we need to get to or whatever?
Here's what people, within the space of a week, people suddenly become remote businesses and had to cope with what was on the ground already.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully a bit of planning has gone into this for the phased return. But to answer your question, OFCOM scrambled, and on the OFCOM website, there's a really, they published this just about, I think it was the day after lockdown was announced. There's a guide to maximising your broadband connection about where to put the router. Don't put it by a fish tank, get it off the floor. If you're in a house, you've probably got about 10, 15 devices using Wi-Fi at any time that you don't know. So turn your phone off or turn the Wi-Fi off. It's just using resource, that connection that might be diminishing your experience.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, it's little things, but little things can make a big difference as it comes to Wi-Fi.
Absolutely.
I was just saying, and those things like booster kits and extenders, they do make you think, oh, that's just like obvious, but they're not. You know, this is people like they do work if deployed correctly. Now, we're just like seeing the research. The research study after research. I've seen people have been purchasing wireless extensions, Wi-Fi boosters, new routers. I'll attest to that one. You know, you can't change the infrastructure, but you can give yourself a fighting chance. Get a new router which has got the latest 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi. You might not have that. People just automatically assume a router is a router. It very much isn't.
Right.
You've got your router, an old router, trying to match to a very new phone, for example, that you refresh. That could be problematic. There's a lot of CUDs in this statement, and CUD does a lot of heavy lifting in this.
Yeah, but these are all cracking tips that could be the little bits that added together make a really big difference to someone actually being able to switch the video on their next conference call, you know?
This is the thing, and here's questions people can ask themselves. How often do they routinely switch on and switch off their router? Now, a lot of these routers, they upgrade the firmware, the bits that make it work.
Yep.
There's patches, they're regularly updated by the operators, and they just, unlike Apple, where they tell you that iOS, whatever, is being upgraded tomorrow, your broadband company doesn't tend to tell you that one.
Sure.
That could make the difference. Do that every week, doesn't harm. Again, just look at the Ofcom guide about where do you want to work. Have a look about how far you're from the router. What type? Is it a brick wall? That sounds like really obvious, but walls aren't walls.
Yeah.
And that's it for today's episode. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed it, please leave us a review. It really helps us reach more people. And remember to subscribe for new content every weekday.